Hook. Have you ever wondered about the stories hidden in the shadows of the Bible? About voices that were silenced, yet carried a message of hope and restoration? DINAH's story is one of those voices, a story of pain, betrayal, and ultimately, redemption. Today, we're diving into the untold journey of Jacob's daughter, uncovering secrets that have been forgotten for centuries, and discovering the profound lessons her life holds for us today. DINAH, the daughter of Jacob and Leah, often appears as a fleeting figure in biblical accounts. But when we look closer, her story is not just about the tragedies she endured. It is about the resilience and power of restoration that can emerge even from the darkest moments. DINAH grew up in a family of 12 sons, each strong, ambitious, and protective. Her life in Shechem, a city of strangers and neighbors alike, was shaped by the dynamics of her father's household, the rivalries among her brothers, and the societal norms of the time. From the very beginning, DINAH's story teaches us that even within a seemingly safe environment, life can be unpredictable. As a young girl, she must have observed her brothers' intense devotion to their father and their fierce sense of justice. Yet, she also saw the undercurrents of jealousy, rivalry, and insecurity. These early experiences would shape the way she faced the world outside the family compound, a world that was about to introduce her to the first real test of her strength. The pivotal moment in DINAH's life came when she went out to visit the women of the land. It may have been a simple act, curiosity, desire for connection, or a childlike sense of freedom, but it placed her in the path of Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite. What happened next has echoed through history. Shechem saw DINAH, took her, and defiled her. It was a moment of violation that would ignite a chain of events affecting her family, her community, and ultimately, her own understanding of justice and restoration. For DINAH, this moment was not just a personal trauma. It became the spark of a larger narrative about honor, revenge, and morality. When her brothers heard what had happened, they were furious, and their reaction was extreme. Simeon and Levi, her older brothers, plotted an act of vengeance. They deceived the men of Shechem, demanding circumcision as a precondition for intermarriage, only to attack and slaughter them while they were still recovering. At first glance, this might seem like a story of revenge and anger, but hidden beneath it is a deeper lesson about the consequences of actions, the complexity of justice, and the way human emotions interplay with divine principles. DINAH, in the midst of all this, had her life upended, yet she survived. And in survival, she discovered resilience. The story of DINAH is often told in fragments, focusing on the betrayal and her brother's violent response. But let's shift our perspective. What about DINAH's voice, her inner journey, and her eventual restoration? Though the text does not explicitly detail her recovery, we can imagine the emotional and spiritual process she went through. She had to reconcile the pain of violation, the betrayal of trust, and the terror of her family's retaliation with the hope that life could still hold meaning. This process of restoration is something we can all relate to. Each of us faces moments where the world seems unfair, where people we trust fail us, and where our sense of security is shattered. DINAH's story reminds us that restoration does not come from denying the pain, but from confronting it, understanding it, and gradually reclaiming our identity. She did not let the act define her. She became more than a victim. She became a symbol of resilience and the possibility of renewal. Another layer of DINAH's story lies in the cultural and historical context. In ancient times, a woman's honor was closely tied to family reputation. The violation she experienced was not just a personal attack. It was a societal one, a challenge to her father's household, and a test of communal ethics. Navigating this required wisdom and courage, qualities that DINAH had to cultivate in silence. Though she did not act overtly, her survival and eventual place in Jacob's lineage demonstrate a quiet strength that can inspire us today. As we reflect on DINAH's journey, we also encounter the theme of forgiveness and the human capacity to move forward. Restoration is not always about confronting those who harmed us. It can also be about healing ourselves and reclaiming our sense of purpose. DINAH's life shows us that even when the world around us seems chaotic and unjust, There is a path toward wholeness if we choose to pursue it. What can we learn from DINAH in our modern lives? First, the importance of acknowledging our pain. Ignoring trauma does not heal it. Second, the power of resilience. Even when circumstances are dire, there is an inner strength we can tap into. Third, the pursuit of justice balanced with compassion. While her brother's response was extreme, it highlights the complex interplay between emotion and morality, a reminder that our choices have consequences. And finally, the gift of restoration. No matter how dark our experiences, it is possible to emerge with renewed purpose and a deeper understanding of life. DINAH's story is not just a historical account. It is a mirror for our own journeys. Every challenge we face, every betrayal, and every heartbreak can be transformed into a story of growth and renewal. Her life invites us to consider how we confront adversity, how we respond to injustice, and how we allow ourselves to heal. As this first chapter of her story concludes, we see DINAH as more than just a footnote in biblical history. She is a living testament to the power of restoration, a quiet force that demonstrates that even in the face of deep pain, life can continue and hope can flourish. And this is just the beginning. In the next chapter, we will follow DINAH's journey as she navigates life after the incident in Shechem, uncovering the ways she reclaims her voice, rebuilds her identity, and ultimately contributes to the legacy of Jacob's family. The story of DINAH is far from over. It is a story of courage, of learning to rise after falling, and of discovering the strength that lies within each of us. DINAH returned home carrying more than just memories. She carried questions, fears, and a longing to understand her place in a world that had shifted beneath her feet. The house of Jacob, while a place of family, was filled with tension, grief, and the unspoken weight of her brother's violent retribution. She needed to find her voice amid the chaos, and it began quietly, in small, deliberate ways. Healing came in reflection. DINAH spent time observing her surroundings, learning from her experiences, and slowly reclaiming her sense of self. She realized that her worth was not tied to the events in Shechem or to her brother's reaction. Her identity was hers to define, and the path to restoration started from within. She began to engage more deeply with her own thoughts, spending moments in solitude to process everything that had happened. It was in these quiet hours that DINAH discovered the power of introspection. She started to journal her thoughts, reflect on her emotions, and understand her own strengths and weaknesses. Slowly, she began to notice a shift within herself, a growing awareness that her life was not defined by what had been done to her, but by how she chose to move forward. DINAH also began to observe her family dynamics with new clarity. Her brothers were still wrestling with the aftermath of Shechem, and her father, Jacob, struggled to maintain peace and unity among his sons. DINAH noticed patterns of anger, pride, and impulsive decision-making. Through observation, she learned that influence was not only about authority or loud declarations. It was about understanding people, their fears, and their desires. Her relationship with her mother, Leah, became a cornerstone of support. Leah, aware of the dangers and limitations of their society, quietly guided DINAH, offering wisdom and encouragement. Through these conversations, DINAH learned the importance of resilience, not as an abstract idea, but as a daily practice. She discovered that resilience involved patience, careful observation, and the courage to act when the moment was right. As the months passed, DINAH began to venture beyond her immediate home. She walked through the fields, visited neighboring families, and started to cultivate friendships with people who had once been strangers. Each encounter was a subtle test of her courage and judgment. She learned to navigate conversations with tact, to offer advice when appropriate, and to remain silent when discretion was needed. This growing sense of agency gave her confidence, and she started to feel that her life could once again have purpose. One day, while walking near the outskirts of their land, DINAH encountered a group of young women who were struggling with their own challenges. Some were dealing with familial pressure, others with societal expectations, and a few with personal grief. DINAH found herself naturally stepping into a role of guidance and mentorship. She shared her experiences in a careful, thoughtful manner, never exposing all of her pain at once, but offering lessons she had learned about strength, resilience, and hope. Slowly, she became a source of inspiration for them, a quiet leader whose influence spread without any formal title or recognition. DINAH's growing influence in her community also taught her an important lesson. True restoration is rarely a solitary act. It is deeply connected to the well-being of those around us. By helping others navigate their struggles, she not only reaffirmed her own sense of self, but also contributed to the healing of her wider community. Her journey demonstrated that empowerment is often relational. It flourishes when we nurture others as we nurture ourselves. Yet, DINAH's path was not without challenges. Her brothers' reactions continued to reverberate through her life. They were proud of their perceived defense of family honor, but DINAH recognized the dangers of unchecked anger and revenge. She began to think critically about justice, understanding that it was not always about punishment, but about restoration and balance. She started to quietly mediate conflicts when possible, offering perspectives that encouraged dialogue rather than destruction. Through these acts, DINAH's wisdom began to gain recognition even among her brothers, who slowly learned to respect her insights. Amid all this, DINAH also faced personal emotional struggles. Memories of Shechem would resurface, and moments of fear or sadness would occasionally shadow her daily life. But she learned to confront these emotions rather than suppress them. She developed practices of reflection, prayer, and storytelling, allowing herself to process grief while also imagining the life she wanted to build. Through this internal work, DINAH became stronger, more compassionate, and more attuned to the nuances of human behavior. As time passed, DINAH's reputation grew quietly. People began to notice her wisdom, her calm strength, and her ability to navigate complexity with grace. Her influence was not forced or demanding. It arose naturally from her authenticity and the depth of her understanding. By taking ownership of her story and using it as a tool to help others, DINAH exemplified the true power of restoration. Her experiences also reshaped her understanding of family. DINAH realized that love and loyalty were powerful, but they needed to be guided by wisdom and compassion. She began to engage more openly with her brothers, offering counsel on matters of fairness and long-term vision. While not all her advice was heeded, her presence subtly guided the family toward more balanced and thoughtful decisions. Through this period of quiet growth, DINAH began to envision a future for herself that went beyond survival. She imagined ways she could contribute meaningfully to her family, her community, and the legacy of Jacob's household. Each day, each small decision, and each act of guidance became a building block in this larger vision. By the end of this chapter in her life, DINAH had transformed from a young girl defined by trauma into a young woman defined by purpose. She had reclaimed her voice, cultivated her influence, and discovered that restoration was not a single event but a journey, one that required courage, patience, and unwavering self-awareness. Her journey, however, was far from over. New challenges, opportunities, and tests of character awaited her, each designed to strengthen her further and prepare her for the pivotal role she would play in her family's story and in the lives of those she touched. DINAH's story was no longer just about surviving the past. It was about shaping the future. DINAH had transformed. From the girl who endured the chaos in Shechem, she had become a young woman whose presence commanded quiet respect. Her family began to notice the subtle ways she shaped conversations, eased tensions, and offered perspectives that were thoughtful and measured. Yet, even as her influence grew, new challenges emerged, tests of her wisdom, resilience, and patience that would define the next stage of her journey. Her brother's actions in Shechem had left lingering tensions with neighboring communities. While DINAH had begun to rebuild her own sense of self, the consequences of past events continued to ripple outward. She realized that true restoration required more than personal healing. It required engagement with the larger world. Observing her father Jacob's leadership, she learned how diplomacy and careful communication could prevent conflict from escalating. DINAH began to play a subtle role in mediating disputes. Families from neighboring lands would seek guidance from her father or her brothers, and often, DINAH's insight provided a voice of reason. Her understanding of human emotion, honed through her own experiences, allowed her to see both sides of an argument. She learned that listening could be more powerful than speaking, and that patience often carried more weight than authority. At home, she continued to nurture relationships with her siblings. Her brothers, initially wary of her judgment, slowly began to recognize her value. Simeon and Levi, in particular, had to reconcile their impulsive actions in Shechem with the wisdom DINAH now embodied. While they were proud of their fierce loyalty, they also began to see the need for balance between justice and prudence, a lesson DINAH had learned the hard way. DINAH also strengthened her connection with her mother, Leah. Leah's guidance became even more crucial as DINAH faced moments of doubt and fear. Together, they explored ways to maintain the family's cohesion, nurture younger siblings, and manage complex household dynamics. DINAH discovered that leadership often meant working behind the scenes, quietly influencing decisions, and fostering understanding rather than seeking recognition. Outside the home, DINAH's growing influence was evident in her community. People admired her for her clarity of thought, her calm demeanor, and her ability to navigate difficult situations. Young women, in particular, began to look to her for guidance. DINAH shared lessons from her own life, teaching them about resilience, the importance of self-worth, and how to handle adversity with grace. Her story became a beacon for others, even if she never spoke of it in full detail. Despite her progress, DINAH faced internal challenges. Memories of Shechem and the trauma she had endured would sometimes resurface, accompanied by fear or anger. Yet, she had learned to confront these emotions rather than suppress them. Through prayer, reflection, and moments of quiet contemplation, she processed her pain, transforming it into insight and strength. Each day became an opportunity to practice patience, courage, and discernment. DINAH's experiences also shaped her understanding of justice. She recognized that retaliation could be destructive and that true resolution required wisdom, empathy, and measured action. This insight allowed her to guide her brothers and family in ways that preserved honor while promoting fairness. Slowly, her counsel became a stabilizing force within Jacob's household, influencing decisions that affected not only the family but the broader community. As DINAH's role expanded, she began to envision her own future in a more intentional way. She considered how she could continue to serve her family, contribute to her community, and leave a legacy rooted in wisdom and restoration. Her focus shifted from merely surviving to actively shaping the lives around her. One pivotal moment came when a dispute arose between two neighboring families over land and resources. Tensions were high, and both sides were ready for confrontation. DINAH, recognizing the potential for escalation, stepped in. She approached each family, listening carefully to their concerns, understanding their fears, and seeking common ground. Through her patient negotiation, the conflict was resolved peacefully, earning her quiet admiration from both sides. This event reinforced her belief that influence, grounded in empathy and insight, could effect profound change. DINAH also continued to support her siblings in personal ways. She helped guide younger brothers through challenges, counseled them in decision-making, and shared her understanding of the delicate balance between strength and compassion. Her relationships deepened as she became not just a sister but a mentor, confidant, and source of wisdom within the family. Through all of this, DINAH cultivated an inner strength that became central to her identity. She had learned that restoration was not a single act but an ongoing process, a journey that required resilience, patience, and the willingness to confront both external challenges and internal fears. Every decision she made, every interaction she engaged in, was part of a larger tapestry of personal and communal growth. By the end of this period, DINAH had established herself as a stabilizing force within her family and her community. She had reclaimed her voice, expanded her influence, and developed a deeper understanding of justice, empathy, and leadership. Her journey was far from over, but she had laid the foundation for a life defined not by past trauma, but by purpose, insight, and restoration. The story of Dinah continued to unfold, revealing new challenges, opportunities, and moments that would test her wisdom, courage, and resilience even further. Each step she took strengthened not only herself, but also those around her, demonstrating that the path of restoration is both personal and communal, a journey that transforms the individual while shaping the legacy they leave behind. Dinah's life had entered a new phase. She was no longer the quiet observer or the recovering victim of Shechem's tragedy. She had grown into a young woman of insight, whose presence influenced her family and community alike. Yet, with influence came new challenges, tests of wisdom, patience, and moral courage that would shape the next chapter of her story. Her reputation for discernment and empathy had begun to spread beyond Jacob's household. Neighboring families sought her advice on disputes, both large and small. Land disagreements, misunderstandings between households, and questions of social obligations were brought to her. Dinah approached each situation with careful observation, listening deeply before offering guidance. Her ability to understand both sides and remain impartial became her hallmark. Even within her own family, tensions sometimes flared. Her brothers, proud and occasionally impulsive, could not always temper their emotions. Dinah found herself mediating between them, offering counsel on how to respond with measured judgment rather than immediate reaction. She reminded them, gently but firmly, that strength without wisdom often led to unnecessary suffering. Dinah's relationship with her parents also evolved. Jacob, though a patriarch accustomed to authority, began to recognize the value of her perspective. He consulted her quietly on decisions that required subtle insight or foresight. Leah, ever supportive, continued to nurture Dinah's growth, guiding her in matters of household management, diplomacy, and emotional intelligence. Their guidance combined with Dinah's experiences allowed her to navigate increasingly complex situations. Her inner life remained a source of strength. She maintained practices of reflection and prayer, moments where she confronted lingering fears, processed memories of Shechem, and envisioned the kind of person she aspired to be. These quiet hours allowed her to align her actions with her values and ensured that her decisions carried both compassion and discernment. Dinah's growing influence was also evident among younger women in the community. She shared lessons from her experiences, teaching them about resilience, self-worth, and navigating a world that often underestimated them. She became a mentor, a guide, and a model of quiet strength, showing that leadership could be exercised without force and that true empowerment often stemmed from inner clarity. Yet, new challenges emerged that tested her wisdom in unexpected ways. A neighboring clan, once friendly, began encroaching on the territory of Jacob's household. Their intentions were unclear, and tensions threatened to escalate into conflict. Dinah, understanding the stakes, approached the matter with a balance of caution and insight. She met with members of the clan, listened to their grievances, and sought common ground. Her careful diplomacy prevented unnecessary bloodshed and reinforced her reputation as a mediator capable of resolving complex disputes. Within the family, Dinah faced personal challenges as well. Some siblings struggled to accept her growing authority and influence. Jealousy, old grievances, and misunderstanding occasionally surfaced. Dinah responded not with anger but with patience, using these moments to teach lessons in empathy and understanding. She reminded them that unity and harmony were strengthened not through domination, but through respect, communication, and shared values. The lessons Dinah imparted extended beyond family and community. She began to reflect on how her own experiences could inform a broader understanding of morality, justice, and human relationships. She considered the consequences of revenge, the value of compassion, and the enduring importance of integrity. Through these reflections, she developed a philosophy of life that balanced strength with wisdom, assertiveness with empathy, and personal growth with communal responsibility. Dinah's influence also became practical. She assisted in managing household affairs, distributing resources fairly, and ensuring that the family's reputation remained intact in the eyes of neighbors and distant relatives. Her attention to detail, foresight, and ability to mediate disputes subtly strengthened the household, even when her actions went unnoticed by some. Her experiences continued to teach her resilience. Memories of Shechem would sometimes resurface, testing her emotional stability. But Dinah had learned to face these memories, using reflection and prayer to process and release lingering pain. Each confrontation with the past strengthened her, reinforcing her capacity for empathy, judgment, and moral courage. Over time, Dinah's growth inspired her brothers and community alike. Simeon and Levi began to consult her more often, recognizing the value of measured wisdom over impulsive action. The younger siblings looked to her as an example of patience, discernment, and quiet authority. Even neighbors sought her advice, showing respect for her ability to navigate the complexities of human interaction with grace. By the end of this period, Dinah had become a stabilizing force in her family and beyond. She had mastered the art of influencing through subtlety, guiding through insight rather than command. Her life demonstrated that true leadership comes not from power or force, but from understanding, resilience, and the courage to act with wisdom. As her story continued, Dinah would face even greater tests, challenges that would require her to balance family loyalty, justice, and compassion in ways she had never imagined. Her journey of restoration and empowerment was ongoing, revealing that the path to true influence is rarely straightforward, but always transformative. Dinah's life had become one of influence and subtle leadership, but her journey was far from complete. Even as she guided her family and community with wisdom, the world around her continued to test her resilience. New challenges arose, each designed to test not just her judgment, but the depth of her spirit. One of the first trials came from the external pressures surrounding Jacob's household. Neighboring clans, while generally respectful of her family's reputation, sometimes acted in ways that threatened harmony. Land disputes, miscommunications, and the unpredictable nature of human behavior created tension. Dinah, now a recognized voice of guidance, had to step forward and offer counsel. Her approach combined empathy with firmness, ensuring that resolution prioritized fairness while minimizing conflict. Within the family, Dinah also faced delicate situations. As her brothers grew older, their ambitions sometimes clashed with one another, leading to friction. Simeon and Levi, still proud of their earlier actions in Shechem, occasionally struggled to balance pride with wisdom. Dinah's guidance became essential. She would patiently explain the consequences of impulsive decisions, helping them see that true strength was measured not in conquest or revenge, but in restraint and thoughtful action. Her relationship with her mother, Leah, continued to deepen. Leah, who had always provided guidance and support, now relied on Dinah as much as Dinah relied on her. Together, they managed household affairs, nurtured younger siblings, and mediated family conflicts. Dinah learned that leadership was not about commanding others. It was about creating harmony, fostering understanding, and cultivating loyalty through respect and care. The emotional aspect of Dinah's journey remained significant. Memories of Shechem, though softened by time, occasionally resurfaced, challenging her sense of security. She dealt with these moments through reflection and prayer, drawing strength from her inner resolve and the lessons she had learned. By confronting these painful memories rather than suppressing them, Dinah transformed her past into a source of wisdom and empathy, enabling her to guide others with authenticity. Dinah's influence extended beyond her family. Younger women in the community increasingly sought her guidance, drawn to her calm presence and thoughtful insight. She taught them about resilience, self-respect, and navigating challenges with grace. Dinah became a mentor, showing that strength and influence could be expressed quietly through action, counsel, and example rather than through dominance or authority. A critical moment in this period came when a conflict arose between two neighboring families over grazing lands. The dispute had the potential to escalate into violence, and tensions ran high. Dinah intervened, carefully listening to each side, understanding their fears and motivations, and guiding them toward a peaceful resolution. Her ability to mediate complex situations strengthened her reputation and demonstrated that true leadership requires both empathy and courage. Within Jacob's household, DINAH continued to support her siblings in personal matters. She counseled them on relationships, responsibilities, and moral choices. Her perspective, shaped by her own experiences, allowed her to offer guidance that was both practical and compassionate. Over time, her brothers came to value her insights, and even those initially skeptical of her influence began to respect her judgment. DINAH's personal growth was mirrored by her increasing involvement in community affairs. She participated in discussions about trade, social obligations, and communal decisions, always emphasizing fairness and long-term consequences. Her approach was measured, thoughtful, and deeply principled. She understood that influence was most powerful when exercised with integrity and consistency. Throughout these years, DINAH never lost sight of her own journey of restoration. She continued to reflect on the events of her past, learning from mistakes, acknowledging pain, and cultivating resilience. These practices not only strengthened her character but also inspired those around her, showing that personal healing and leadership are intertwined. DINAH's story during this period illustrates a central truth, that restoration is a continuous process. It requires patience, courage, and the willingness to confront both internal and external challenges. Every decision, every act of guidance, and every moment of reflection contributed to her growth and the shaping of her legacy. By the end of this chapter, DINAH had become a cornerstone of her family and community. Her wisdom, compassion, and quiet strength influenced decisions, nurtured relationships, and provided stability in times of uncertainty. She had transformed her past pain into a source of insight, demonstrating that true power lies in resilience, empathy, and moral courage. Even as she solidified her role, new challenges and opportunities awaited. Her journey of influence, restoration, and purpose was far from complete. Each trial she faced prepared her for the next, shaping a life that would leave a lasting impact on her family, community, and future generations. DINAH's story continued to unfold, revealing that the path of restoration is not linear, but a journey of growth, wisdom, and unwavering courage. Her life was a testament to the idea that even from the deepest wounds, strength and purpose can emerge, guiding not only oneself, but also those who look to her for guidance and inspiration. By now, DINAH had become a figure of quiet authority. Her family and community relied on her insight, her ability to mediate disputes, and her understanding of human behavior. Yet, as her influence expanded, the challenges she faced grew more complex. It was no longer just about guiding her siblings or resolving local conflicts. DINAH now encountered situations that tested her judgment, resilience, and moral courage in entirely new ways. One of the earliest challenges of this period came from external pressures on Jacob's household. Neighboring families, while outwardly respectful, began to push boundaries, testing the limits of the family's land, resources, and influence. Small disagreements had the potential to spiral into larger conflicts. DINAH, recognizing the stakes, took a proactive approach. She listened to grievances, assessed motivations, and sought compromises that preserved peace while maintaining fairness. Through these efforts, she prevented situations from escalating into open confrontation. Within the household, DINAH's influence continued to grow, but not without friction. Some of her brothers still struggled with impulsive decision-making, and occasional tensions arose over family responsibilities and leadership roles. DINAH, ever patient, continued to guide them subtly, helping them see the consequences of their actions while fostering cooperation and mutual respect. Her calm, thoughtful approach contrasted with her brother's boldness, often diffusing potential conflicts before they erupted. Her relationship with her mother, Leah, remained a source of strength and guidance. Leah encouraged DINAH to continue cultivating patience, discernment, and empathy, qualities that would serve her well as new challenges emerged. Their bond became a source of mutual inspiration. Leah's wisdom shaped DINAH's perspective, while DINAH's growing confidence reassured Leah that the family's legacy was in capable hands. DINAH's personal growth was also shaped by reflection and prayer. Though memories of Shechem had softened over time, they occasionally resurfaced, testing her emotional resilience. She confronted these moments directly, turning them into opportunities for insight and personal development. By understanding her past experiences and drawing lessons from them, DINAH strengthened her capacity for empathy, leadership, and moral judgment. Her influence extended beyond family matters. Community members increasingly sought her counsel on matters of social justice, trade disputes, and moral dilemmas. DINAH's ability to balance fairness, compassion, and foresight earned her respect and trust. She guided people not by asserting authority, but by offering clarity and perspective, demonstrating that true leadership is rooted in integrity and understanding rather than power alone. A particularly significant moment arose when a disagreement between two neighboring clans threatened to ignite violence. Leaders from both sides approached Jacob for guidance, and DINAH was called upon to mediate. She listened attentively to both parties, identified the underlying fears and motivations, and proposed solutions that honored the needs of both groups. Her diplomatic approach successfully averted conflict, earning her recognition as a mediator whose insight could transcend personal or familial bias. Within her family, DINAH continued to nurture younger siblings, offering mentorship and guidance. She emphasized the importance of self-awareness, responsibility, and moral courage, helping them navigate the challenges of their formative years. Her brothers, once skeptical of her influence, began to appreciate her guidance, recognizing the wisdom she brought to family decision-making. DINAH's ability to transform personal trauma into a source of strength became increasingly evident. She had endured profound suffering, yet she had not allowed it to define her. Instead, she cultivated resilience, empathy, and the ability to act with wisdom. This transformation inspired those around her, showing that healing and empowerment are possible even after the deepest wounds. As time progressed, DINAH's reputation as a wise and compassionate leader solidified. She continued to engage in community affairs, offering guidance on ethical dilemmas, social responsibilities, and conflict resolution. Her presence became a stabilizing force, ensuring that decisions were thoughtful, just, and sustainable. Her journey also involved difficult lessons about human nature and morality. She witnessed how pride, jealousy, and impulsive actions could disrupt relationships and communities. At the same time, she saw how patience, understanding, and careful counsel could restore harmony and build trust. These lessons deepened her insight into leadership, reinforcing the importance of moral clarity and emotional intelligence. By the end of this chapter in her life, DINAH had become a central figure in her family and community, a woman whose strength, wisdom, and compassion shaped the decisions and lives of those around her. Her story illustrated that restoration is not a single event, but an ongoing journey where resilience, empathy, and thoughtful action combine to create lasting influence. DINAH's experiences during this period also prepared her for future challenges. As her influence expanded, she would face decisions that tested not only her judgment, but her moral courage, loyalty, and ability to balance personal desires with communal needs. Each trial strengthened her character and reinforced the enduring lesson that leadership grounded in empathy, wisdom, and integrity leaves a legacy that far outlasts immediate circumstances. Through all of this, DINAH's journey demonstrated a profound truth. The path to restoration and empowerment is continuous, requiring patience, reflection, and the courage to act wisely. By embracing her experiences, learning from mistakes, and cultivating compassion, she transformed her life and influenced the lives of those around her, leaving a lasting imprint that would echo through her family and community for generations. By this stage in her life, DINAH had become more than a quiet influence. She was a cornerstone of her family and a respected figure in her community. Her wisdom, patience, and empathy had guided her family through numerous challenges, and her counsel had prevented potential conflicts from escalating into serious disputes. Yet, as her life unfolded, new trials emerged, challenges that would test not only her intellect and judgment, but also her moral courage and spiritual resilience. One pressing challenge involved the extended community surrounding Jacob's household. While most neighboring clans respected her family, there were tensions rooted in competition over resources, territorial boundaries, and social influence. DINAH understood that unresolved tensions could quickly escalate into conflict. Drawing on her experience and observation, she engaged in mediation, encouraging dialogue, fostering compromise, and emphasizing shared values. Her ability to balance firmness with compassion helped maintain peace and strengthened her reputation as a fair and wise advisor. Within her household, DINAH's influence continued to deepen, but it was not without moments of friction. Her brothers, some still prone to impulsive decisions, occasionally struggled with jealousy and pride. DINAH's guidance was invaluable in these moments. She helped them understand the consequences of their actions, encouraged reflection before decision-making, and gently reminded them of the importance of family unity. Her presence served as both a calming influence and a moral compass, fostering cohesion where tensions threatened to fracture the family. Her relationship with her mother, Leah, remained a source of strength and counsel. Leah encouraged DINAH to continue developing her abilities, offering guidance on diplomacy, household management, and leadership. Together, they navigated the complexities of managing a large household, mediating internal conflicts, and maintaining harmony. Their collaboration reinforced DINAH's understanding that leadership often requires a balance of empathy, strategic thinking, and patience. As DINAH matured, she increasingly reflected on her past experiences and the lessons they had taught her. The trauma of Shechem, while now a memory rather than a constant presence, had shaped her resilience, empathy, and moral discernment. She confronted these memories openly, using them as a guide to navigate present challenges and to mentor others who faced their own struggles. This conscious reflection allowed her to transform personal pain into a source of strength and insight. Her influence extended beyond family matters. Community members sought her counsel on ethical dilemmas, trade disputes, and interpersonal conflicts. DINAH's ability to approach each situation with calm judgment, listening carefully before acting, reinforced her standing as a trusted mediator. She demonstrated that leadership is rooted not in power but in understanding, patience, and integrity. One particularly notable challenge arose when a neighboring family attempted to assert claims over shared resources. The dispute threatened to escalate into open conflict, and Jacob's household looked to DINAH for guidance. She carefully analyzed the situation, spoke with all parties, and proposed a solution that preserved fairness while preventing escalation. Her intervention not only resolved the dispute peacefully, but also strengthened the bonds of trust and mutual respect among all involved. Within her family, DINAH continued to mentor younger siblings, emphasizing the values of patience, moral courage, and empathy. She taught them that true strength lies not in domination but in understanding and guiding others with wisdom. Her brothers, once skeptical of her influence, increasingly relied on her judgment, recognizing the value of her calm insight in resolving both minor and major conflicts. DINAH also developed a broader vision for her own life and her family's legacy. She understood that her role was not only to guide in the present but to prepare the next generation for challenges ahead. She focused on cultivating values such as integrity, resilience, and fairness, ensuring that her family would continue to thrive and maintain harmony even after her direct guidance was no longer possible. Throughout these years, DINAH's inner strength remained a guiding force. She maintained her practices of reflection, prayer, and quiet contemplation, using them to navigate emotional challenges and maintain clarity in decision-making. By confronting both her own fears and the complex dynamics around her, DINAH strengthened her capacity for empathy, moral discernment, and wise leadership. Her story during this period demonstrates a key principle: restoration and influence are ongoing processes. DINAH's ability to turn her personal experiences into guidance for others illustrates that true leadership grows from resilience, reflection, and the courage to act thoughtfully. Her life became a living example that even in the face of past trauma, one can cultivate strength, wisdom, and a lasting positive impact. By the end of this chapter, DINAH had firmly established herself as a moral and emotional anchor for her family and community. Her reputation as a wise mediator, compassionate guide, and resilient leader was well earned. She had transformed her past pain into purpose, showing that adversity can be a catalyst for growth and empowerment. Even as her influence solidified, DINAH's journey was far from complete. Future challenges awaited, trials that would test her loyalty, judgment, and courage in even deeper ways. Each experience would further shape her legacy, ensuring that her story of resilience, wisdom, and restoration would be remembered and honored by those she touched. DINAH's life illustrates a profound truth. True empowerment emerges not from avoiding challenges, but from facing them with courage, integrity, and empathy. Her journey serves as a reminder that restoration is a continuous path, one that transforms not only the individual, but also the lives of those around them. By this stage of her life, DINAH had fully grown into a figure of wisdom, compassion, and influence. The trials she had endured, from the trauma of Shechem to the ongoing challenges within her family and community, had shaped her into a resilient, perceptive, and morally grounded woman. Yet, even as she achieved stability and influence, new experiences continued to refine her understanding of leadership, justice, and restoration. The broader community continued to test her abilities. Disputes over land, resources, and social obligations frequently arose, and DINAH was called upon repeatedly to mediate with fairness and insight. Her growing reputation as a peacemaker meant that she often dealt with sensitive matters that required a balance of diplomacy, courage, and wisdom. DINAH approached each situation methodically, ensuring that decisions honored justice while fostering reconciliation. Through these efforts, she strengthened not only the external community, but also the internal cohesion of Jacob's household. Within her family, DINAH's influence had reached its peak. Her brothers increasingly sought her counsel, and even those who had once resisted her guidance now acknowledged her wisdom. She played a pivotal role in nurturing younger siblings, ensuring that values such as empathy, moral courage, and prudence were instilled early. By shaping their character and fostering unity, DINAH ensured that the family could withstand challenges beyond her own influence. DINAH also became a living example of personal restoration. Though memories of Shechem never fully disappeared, she had transformed her pain into strength and insight. She mentored others who had experienced trauma, showing them that their past need not define their future. By sharing lessons of resilience, discernment, and moral clarity, DINAH inspired those around her to embrace their own potential for healing and growth. Her influence extended beyond the household and neighboring clans. Travelers, merchants, and distant families sought her counsel for matters of fairness, social obligation, and dispute resolution. DINAH's reputation was built not on authority or force, but on the consistent application of empathy, insight, and integrity. People came to trust that her guidance would be measured, fair, and deeply considered, a reflection of the wisdom she had cultivated through years of experience. A defining moment came when a larger regional conflict threatened to involve multiple households, including Jacob's family. Tensions had risen over disputed boundaries and alliances, and there was a real risk of violence. DINAH took a central role in mediating between the parties. She listened carefully to grievances, sought common ground, and proposed solutions that acknowledged the needs of all sides. Her intervention prevented escalation and demonstrated the power of wisdom tempered with empathy. The resolution further solidified her legacy as a stabilizing force in the region. Within her family, DINAH continued to teach by example. She emphasized patience, thoughtfulness, and moral courage in the face of difficult decisions. Her brothers learned to measure their impulses against the values she embodied, and the younger siblings grew under her mentorship, adopting her model of quiet leadership and resilience. DINAH's story also reveals the profound connection between personal healing and communal restoration. By confronting her own trauma and transforming it into insight, she was able to guide others in resolving conflict, building trust, and fostering harmony. Her journey illustrates that restoration is not an isolated act. It ripples outward, influencing the lives of everyone touched by patience, wisdom, and compassion. Even as she matured, DINAH never stopped learning. She reflected on her experiences, considered the complexities of human relationships, and adjusted her approach when necessary. Her ability to adapt while staying grounded in moral principles became a hallmark of her leadership. She demonstrated that true influence is not static. It evolves with circumstance, experience, and the continual pursuit of understanding. By the end of her life's pivotal years, DINAH had achieved a remarkable balance. She had transformed past suffering into resilience, established her voice and authority within her family, and extended her influence across the wider community. Her story became a testament to the power of wisdom, empathy, and steadfast moral courage. DINAH's legacy was not measured by wealth or outward recognition, but by the lives she touched, the conflicts she resolved, and enduring values she instilled. Her journey demonstrates that even in the aftermath of tragedy, one can rise to become a source of guidance, strength, and inspiration. Her life teaches a timeless lesson. Restoration is a journey, not a destination. True empowerment emerges when one confronts pain, cultivates understanding, and acts with integrity. DINAH's story is a shining example of how resilience, reflection, and moral clarity can transform suffering into a life of influence and purpose. In the end, DINAH had not only reclaimed her voice and her identity, she had reshaped her world. The family that had once struggled with division now thrived under her subtle guidance. The community she engaged with learned the value of empathy and measured action. And DINAH herself had become a symbol of hope, restoration, and quiet strength, leaving a legacy that would endure for generations. Her journey, from the silent girl wounded in Shechem to the wise, resilient woman guiding her family and community, stands as a testament to the transformative power of courage, empathy, and determination. DINAH's story reminds us that even in the face of injustice and suffering, restoration is possible, influence can be reclaimed, and a legacy of wisdom and strength can be forged from the trials of life.